Okay, let's unpack this. We like to believe we're purely rational, logical beings, right? Our brains are incredible powerhouses. I mean, processing vast amounts of information every second. But what if I told you that despite all that raw processing power, your brain has some built-in shortcuts, some fundamental glitches that lead to seriously surprising outcomes every single day? We're diving deep into cognitive biases, those unconscious errors in judgment that subtly sway our decisions, beliefs, and even our perceptions. And these aren't just abstract psychological concepts. These are the hidden forces influencing your thoughts, your beliefs, your choices, every single day. Our mission in this deep dive is to shine a light on them, maybe give you the tools to spot these software bugs in your own brain and, well, in the world around you.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating distinction because unlike logical fallacies, which are errors in the structure of an argument itself, like saying, everyone else is doing it, so it must be right, kind of thing,
Right.
cognitive biases are more deeply ingrained. They're genuine limitations, or you could say built in flaws in how our brains process information, often stemming from errors in memory or how we attribute causes or even miscalculations of probability. They're mental shortcuts that, while sometimes speeding up judgment in a complex world, which is useful, they can lead to significant and predictable mistakes. It's like a hidden wiring in our mental machinery that often prioritizes speed or maybe self-preservation over objective accuracy.
So we're looking at the actual architecture of our thinking. That's, wow, incredibly powerful. We've got a stack of sources here that really highlight just how pervasive these biases are. So our plan is to explore some of the most impactful runs. We'll break them down into three key areas. First, how we interpret and remember information. Second, how we judge ourselves and others. And finally, how these shortcuts impact the decisions we make every single day. Let's jump right in, starting with how our minds handle incoming information. You might think you're, a neutral observer, just taking in facts objectively. But our brains, well, they have some rather strong preferences.
Indeed. And it raises a core question. Why do we so often find ourselves only seeking out information that confirms what we already believe? This is a classic example of confirmation bias. It's our tendency to favor, seek out, and interpret new information in a way that, well, validates our existing beliefs. It's not just about comfort, though that's part of it. It's also about conserving mental energy and, importantly, protecting our self-esteem by making us feel like our beliefs are accurate.
Oh, I see this constantly. You and a friend could listen to the same political debate or read the same article about something controversial like climate change, and both walk away feeling your existing viewpoints were completely validated. It's amazing. We're all guilty of this to some degree, right? Only following social media accounts or news sources that align with our views, or even subconsciously just tuning out opposing arguments. It's a self-reinforcing loop. And it actually builds our self-esteem, which makes us resist challenges even more strongly.
And that's where it becomes problematic, especially now in the digital age. This bias is just greatly amplified. It creates those well-known echo chambers online. The real insight here, maybe the takeaway, is that to mitigate it, we have to deliberately step outside our comfort zone. It's about consciously seeking out diverse perspectives, questioning our initial assumptions, and maybe even, reading full articles rather than just headlines, just to get a truly balanced understanding.
Okay, so it's one thing to filter what's coming in, but what about what's already there? Our memories. We trust them so much, but they can actually be surprisingly malleable, can't they? That leads us to the misinformation effect.
Absolutely. And this is fascinating because it shows how subtle influences can warp what we perceive as crystal clear memories. New information received after an event can merge with older memories, fill in perceived gaps, or even completely alter our recollections. Just discussing an event with others or even seeing news coverage can subtly reshape what you believe you remember. It's quite spooky, really.
The classic Elizabeth Loftus car crash experiment really drives this home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Participants watched a video of a car crash. Some were asked, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? Others were asked, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Just that one word difference. And a week later, those who heard smashed were far more likely to incorrectly report seeing broken glass. Broken glass, it wasn't even there.
Right. It demonstrates that just a single word can literally change a memory.
Wow. The real-world implications are huge. I mean, from small misunderstandings at work to major issues like eyewitness misidentification in criminal cases.
And while our memories can be influenced, so can our attention in the present moment. Which brings us to the negativity bias. This is our powerful tendency to pay more attention to and give more weight and credibility to bad news or negative experiences. It seems to have deep evolutionary roots. Back in a survival context, noticing a potential threat was far more adaptive than celebrating some small success. Kept you alive.
So it's not just that bad things stick with us more, it's that we actually prioritize them in our attention.
Exactly.
Okay. And this often leads to a public perception that things are constantly getting worse, even when data might suggest otherwise. Like, think about declining global violence rates that Steven Pinker has highlighted. Yet public discourse often feels like the world is more dangerous than ever. The practical implication is that our default setting often misrepresents reality, creating unnecessary anxiety and making us undervalue genuine progress. We have to sort of deliberately seek out positive information to form a balanced worldview. Okay, so that's how we process information. Now let's shift gears to something equally fascinating, how we see ourselves versus how we see everyone else. Because our brains have some incredibly clever ways of protecting our own ego and sometimes, well, misjudging others pretty badly in the process.
Yeah, it really begs the question, why do we so readily give ourselves a pass but often judge others so harshly? This is the actor-observer bias. We tend to attribute our own actions to external situational influences. I was late because of traffic. Classic excuse. But when someone else does the exact same thing, we're quicker to attribute it to their internal character flaws. Oh, they're just lazy and disorganized.
Hmm.
It basically boils down to perspective. We have full access to our own internal thoughts and circumstances, all the reasons why, but we can only guess at others.
Right? Oh yeah, I've totally been there. I bought your presentation, and it's because I was up all night or had too many meetings beforehand. Reasons. But if my colleague botches their presentation,
Yeah.
PFT, it's obviously because they're incompetent or
Yeah.
didn't prepare.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect setup for misunderstandings, isn't it? Both sides blaming external factors for themselves and internal, maybe unchangeable ones for the other person.
It is.
The takeaway maybe is to just pause and consider the external factors that might be at play when judging others, not just ourselves. And speaking of misjudging others, our minds are also surprisingly convinced that everyone thinks just like us. This is the false consensus effect, right? And it's related to projection bias.
Exactly. What's truly interesting here is how it supports our self-perception. It allows us to feel normal and feel like our opinions are widely accepted, which feels good. Plus, we naturally spend time with like-minded individuals, right, in our social circles. So we start to assume our way of thinking is the majority opinion. And while false consensus is specifically about overestimating agreement on beliefs or behaviors, projection bias is a bit broader. It's the more general difficulty we have in stepping outside our own subjective experience to accurately predict anyone else's preferences or emotional states. We just kind of assume they mirror our own.
Okay, so it's not just about thinking everyone agrees with my political views, but it could also be assuming my friends want to eat the same pizza toppings or listen to the same band I do.
Precisely. It's an inability to truly separate our subjective experience from that of others.
The practical insight then is just to ask.
Yeah.
Actively solicit other people's opinions and preferences rather than just assuming they match ours.
That's a good start, yeah.
Okay, how about this? Have you ever met someone incredibly charming or attractive, and suddenly you just assume they're also brilliant, kind, and generally amazing at everything? That's the halo effect shining bright.
It absolutely is. It's a powerful cognitive shortcut where an initial positive impression of a person, often based on physical attractiveness or maybe just a single striking trait, colors our entire perception of them. It's sometimes called the what is beautiful is good principle because it helps us quickly categorize and simplify social judgments. It makes the world feel simpler, and it reflects our brain's desire for consistency. To avoid that uncomfortable feeling of cognitive dissonance, we want our initial assessment to be correct, so we unconsciously project other positive traits onto them to make it all fit.
And it plays out everywhere.
Yeah.
Good-looking people are often perceived as smarter or more trustworthy. Confident politicians seem more intelligent, even if they're not saying much of substance.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just a minor quirk. It has tangible, real-world impacts. Like job applicants who are perceived as more attractive or likable are actually more likely to be seen as competent and qualified, regardless of their actual skills.
It's true. A real bias in hiring.
It's a solid reminder that our first impressions are rarely as objective as we think they are.
Which leads perfectly into how we view our own achievements and failures. We're often quick to give ourselves a pass or maybe too much credit. This is the self-serving bias. It's where we attribute our successes to our own internal qualities, our intelligence, our hard work, our skill. But we blame our failures on external circumstances beyond our control. Bad luck, unfair situations, other people.
Oh, yeah, classic. So if I get a good grade on an exam, it's because I'm smart and studied hard,
Right.
obviously. But if I get a bad grade, yeah, the teacher was unfair, or the questions were tricky, or I didn't get enough sleep because the neighbors were loud.
Right. Always an external reason for failure.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it definitely helps protect our self-esteem, which is important, I guess.
It does serve that function.
But if we're always blaming external factors for our shortcomings, it fundamentally stops us from learning from our mistakes, right? From improving.
Absolutely. It hinders growth.
The takeaway here feels like trying to honestly assess our own role in both successes and failures. That's how you get better. Okay, final section. Let's look at how these mental shortcuts impact the actual choices we make every day, from big life decisions to simple judgments about risk. This is where the rubber really meets the road.
And one of the most insidious, I think, is anchoring bias.